Hi, friend. Welcome. I am Jahz, a girl who believed in the word and the gospel of Jesus Christ. But there are many questions, and there were times that I often felt defeated because I just did not understand the mystery of it all. I asked my friends and family to sit with me in conversation that we may journey together, that we may grow in understanding and wisdom. And I am beyond thrilled to share these conversations with you. My hope is that it will help you to grow in understanding, and more than that, to let you know that you are not alone, that together we can grow. So come, let's journey. Today I have the pleasure of a very special guest, Yakum Fitz-Henley. Yakum is an attorney at law who has notable accreditation, and he's also a tutor at the University of the West Indies in Morning. But more than that, so much more than that, he is a man of God. He's a child passionately pursuing the heart of Jesus Christ. So, Yakum, welcome.
Jahzema. Hello.
I should tell you, by the way, that Yakum is also my brother.
Yeah.
So it really is
I'm
special.
surprised that wasn't the first thing in the intro.
Actually, no, that couldn't come first.
Should have-
I had
you
to
should
speak
have.
of the man that you are.
Best thing about me.
Thank you for being here. Oh my! Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it, and I want to really take it from the basics, the heart of Jesus Christ. The Word of God tells us that no one comes to the Father except through Jesus Christ. I want to ask you, how do we come to Jesus Christ?
How do we come to Jesus Christ? Well, I think that everybody has their own story, but generally, Jesus is the one who pursues us. He says that I chose you. You didn't choose me, which means that he pursues you. He chases you down. At some point, you ultimately have to make the choice of him, though. In fact, I was just thinking yesterday about how holy it is that God gives us the chance to choose what we believe. And what we believe changes so much about life. So he pursues you. He sends people in your life who know him. He directs you to see him in some way. We live in Jamaica, so we've interacted with some kind of a story about Jesus in some way. And then eventually it's for you to decide whether you want him in your life or not. And if you do, just ask him. He will be very eager to actually be in your life.
It makes me wonder, though, because there are a lot of persons who are just living. They're just living life. Yet they are yet to embrace the love of Jesus Christ. And they are probably unaware of it. They are unaware of it, so they are unable to accept it. I want you to talk to me from that space of you being Yakum. First of all, let me ask you, how long have you received the love of Jesus Christ and have actively walked out this relationship with him?
It will be 3 years come April.
3 years. Do you mind sharing your age now?
I am 25 years old.
25 years old. And I can say that I have known Yakum for 25 years. I have known him for a while, and I can tell you, Yakum was not the most likely that I would have said would have come to Jesus Christ.
Definitely not.
I have had a relationship with Jesus for since 2012. That is the better part of 8 years. Am I right? Oh, wow. Am I right? That seems like a while. But I began my relationship with Jesus Christ at that point, and it had been...
It's more than 8 years, actually.
It's almost 9, but
Yeah.
it's just the beginning of the 9th, I would imagine. But
Wow.
just it had been, for me, it had been a very, can I say, slow relationship? Meaning our relationship had taken a while to build. And there is a point where you may feel like, okay, I have received the love of Jesus Christ. Now what? Now what? But before we even speak about that, I was saying that Yakum was the most, not the most unlikely, but he was not the most likely that I would have thought would have received the love of Jesus Christ. Yakum was the kind of person who, he's a brilliant mind, and I remember Yakum just knowing the lyrics of the dancehall songs and knowing them verbatim. He's very good at that. And I mean, that actually is a gift now because in the same way, equally he is, well, not even equally, so much better at just knowing the word of God. And Yakum is like a walking encyclopedia and also a walking concordance. You can ask him and he will be able to tell you where the passage is. Wow. But he had a mind like that. And I wanted to just share a little bit about that, about how you came into that relationship with Jesus Christ. Because again, I should share that we, Yakum, it's also coming from a background of Rastafarianism. So that was, Jesus Christ, being a Christian was not something that we grew up in. So speak to me a little bit about that, Yakum.
You just call me sir.
I probably did.
Anyway, sorry. So, we grew up in a Rasta household. I don't know about you, but I never really thought of myself as a Rasta. I had locks, and and if people would ask me, in fact, people at Arden, where we both went, would ask me what Rastas believe, and I would tell them that they believe that his Haile Selassie is Jesus reincarnated and stuff like that. But I don't know that I ever bought into the whole Rasta thing or stuff like that. But from a very young age, I always had an awareness that God was real. I think I only flirted with atheism in maybe university for a little while, but it never made sense to me that we make cars and we know that somebody had to make a car, and then you look at all of this, it's just like maybe something exploded. What exploded? Nothing. Yeah, and so that never really made sense to me, and so that always anchored me in that there is God. When I was young, would call him God of Abraham, God of Moses.
When I was young.
Yes, when I was young. When I was young, used to call him God of Abraham and God of Isaac and that kind of thing because I didn't know who he was. But I used to read my Bible because we read Bibles growing up. And I think much of my life went that way, where I would pray and talk to God whenever I had an issue, whenever I had a problem, and ask him to fix it. And eventually what led me I'm cutting a long story, very short. Eventually what led me to a relationship with Jesus is in first year university. I had a conversation with my friend Peter Gay. And for the first time I met somebody who really knew that they knew a living God, like a living person. And I think that planted a seed. And then in the summer after I spoke to her, I had an encounter, I suppose. Where I was reading my Bible, and I think it was in John 4 where Jesus is talking to the woman at the well and says that you don't know who you worship, but we know who we worship because salvation is of the Jews. And while I'm reading the Bible, I have this feeling inside, but I know how small I am, but I feel fully known by somebody. And I'm just confused. I'm just like, how is it possible that you know me this well? This is weird. And eventually it just continues until I just burst into tears because it just, now I can describe it as I felt the love of God, but I had no good for it whatsoever. Still did not get saved for over 4 years, maybe 5. And finally at the end of university, had another experience where I really wanted something, prayed and asked God, tried to make a deal with God and that kind of stuff. Didn't get the thing, and at the end of it, I was just like, you know what you do? Don't really make sense.
At the time, did you know him as God?
No, because I mean, what I had in my mind was just an idea of a person who made this earth, but I didn't know who he was.
You knew of him, but you didn't.
I guess, and then even to say that I knew of him is stretching it a little bit, because I knew the name Jesus. I knew the name God. I had no real clue about what that really meant.
Yeah. So what I want you to take me, because there are a lot of people who will tell you that they might even call themselves Christian, and they will tell you that they know God and they've heard the name Jesus Christ.
That's every Jamaican, by the way.
That's true. Like
me and my God.
Yeah. But I want you to just take me a little, speak to those people who know God. And they'll tell you that, yes, I believe in God. I know there's the God. But how do you come to that point? I remember you saying to me, we was even speaking before about mentioning this picture that you had sent to me. And it was a picture that you had of your younger years. I think you were 18 at the time. I'm not sure. You had it side by side alongside a picture of you now. And I remember saying to you, looking at it and being like, whoa, like there's such a difference and I can see the difference. And I think I asked you, do you often look at it and wonder where had the years gone by? And your response was no, because I feel like my life really began 3 years ago. What do you mean by that?
I sound deep.
Yes, I mean, that really stuck in my head. At that point, I thought to myself, oh, I think you didn't know it yet, because I didn't mention it to you at all, this conversation. But I remember thinking it would be nice to just even show that photo, which I think I will just even insert right here, with your permission, to just show, like, it's a different, and just him saying, just the you saying that my life began 3 years ago. Like, you could almost see like there was new life in the photo of you now. So, yeah, share with me what you meant by that. Speak to that person, the 18-year-old Yakum now, who there are many like you. Speak to the heart of that person.
I mean, I'll just tell it from my perspective. If something occurs to me to say it to people, I'll say it. I used to say this thing. Well, I said this thing for a little while, that one of the things that I'm most grateful to God for is that He pulled me out of shallow living. I don't say that anymore because people get weird when you say that.
What do you mean by shallow living?
Yeah, I'm going to get there. That's what I say no instead of that phase. That essentially before, I had this picture of life where I was going to make money, maybe get married, and then, just live a comfortable life and die and go wherever you go. Didn't really think about it too much. And that's all my life was. And to be very honest with you, like I don't know why I woke up. Well, I was gonna say that I don't know why I woke up and did it every day, but I think that it was because of ambition. So I wanted to do something in life, and for me that meant like becoming a QC, providing for my family, that sort of thing. I started a relationship with Jesus in April 2018, which for me just looked like, at the time, exams for law school were coming to an end. So it just looked like being in my room, waking up every day, studying, and then reading my Bible for all my free time. Just there at my bedside, and just writing in my journal the thoughts that I had and that kind of thing, praying, and that sort of thing.
Meaning at that point in April 2018, you received Jesus Christ.
I can't point to a moment. I know that my first journal entry says April 2018,
Okay.
and I know that I wrote in it that I'm starting my journey with Jesus Christ. I'm asking Him to reveal Himself to me and fulfill. So my name means God shall establish. So I asked Him to fulfill the name of that meaning, fulfill the meaning of that name.
Yeah, they have a fancy word for that called salvation. And I think that a lot of times people may get intimidated by the word salvation because of just the way that it's often preached, of
No, man, definitely. In fact, that's where I was going. I was about to
Yeah.
say that what I mean by shallow living is that um, being saved, salvation, and going to heaven is not even the appealing part for me. God didn't give us salvation. God didn't give us Jesus so that we would get salvation. He gave us salvation so that we could have Jesus. And for me, honestly, if I go to heaven and Jesus is not there, I'm not going to be a fun time for me at all. And
In the template way, I want you to just cap it for me and tell me what is salvation in a very practical way for the person who is yet to even understand the relationship of receiving Jesus Christ.
yeah. What I'm about to say, I'm wondering about saying it because I don't think the pre-2018 Yakum would have related to it very much. But essentially, all of life, every day you'll be doing things. If that was the end in itself, then you would find fulfillment in the things and it would never become tiresome. But obviously, everything we do becomes tiresome at some point. What I've never found to become tiresome is knowing a man who is endless and who is unlike anybody who I've ever met, who I'll read the Bible and something about him, even something that I knew before, would become like more clear to me. And honestly, it invigorates my insides in a way that I would never have imagined could have happened before. Right. Yeah. In fact, one of my most treasured experiences now is reading the Bible and crying, just because I'm just like, who are you that does it this way? And then the Bible reference for that is that Jesus defines eternal life, John 17:3, as knowing the Father and Jesus Christ, who he sent. All of life is about knowing these people who are really fascinating.
This does I mean about Yakum being that walking, you know? Like, I can tell you the Bible verse of knowing the Father, and that is what this whole relationship with Jesus Christ is about. But thank you, Yakum, for the reference. Please, for sure, one, quickly, I want to ask you, well, first of all, in a practical way, right, so two final questions. In a practical way, I want you to tell me I want you to share some practical examples that people can relate to of how your life had changed from the 18-year-old Yakum to the Yakum now.
So one very practical way is what my goal is in life. Before I wanted to become what's called a Queen's Counsel, I used the term QC earlier. That's what I meant, which is essentially one of the best lawyers who actually argue in court. And to me, that was a big dream. But now, like, my universe has expanded because God is the owner of the whole universe and I'm going to live forever. So becoming a QC is a very small goal, to be honest, for a life like mine, which is going to last forever. So my goals are completely different now. And then another way that life has changed for me is how I view people, just because my personality tends towards a little bit of harshness and tends towards like sarcasm and that kind of thing. But then just interacting with how God sees me and how he talks about me when so he calls me righteous when I'm far from it. And that's because of what he did, but then he also calls me his beloved, and he calls the way that I try to love him real and calls it precious to him and calls me kind and that sort of thing, when I'm still struggling very much. And that sort of like the gracious way that he sees me and evaluates my life and looks at the little bit of me that's good and talks about it so highly has really just changed how I talk about people, how I see people, how I view them, and that kind of thing. Which I've realized just like I've realized how heavy negative emotions and negative speaking makes you feel. And I'm honestly just like a freer person just completely lighter and all that stuff.
A theme that I've been hearing at this week is just that affirmation of who you are. And I think that is the thing that a lot of people lack right now. And if you are not affirmed in who you are, then you can hardly relate to people in a way that it's affirming of who they are, and that will cause them to be harsh and sarcastic and not have good relationships. And one of the biggest things that I have found that has improved in my life since my relationship with Jesus Christ, since really truly stepping into that place of relationship with Him, it's my relationship, the relationship with people. And I realized that it's a big deal to Jesus Christ, which is a whole other topic for a whole other time.